welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass, a series of digital-first conversations that we do talking about the issues that matter the most to you, the entrepreneur. I'm Sunanda Jayasilan. On the show tonight, my colleague Pooja Jain spoke with entrepreneurs from across the edtech space about what makes edtech an investor's paradise here in the country. Let me introduce our panelists.
The co-founder of Newton School is Shank Chandra. The co-founder of Seco, Ajit Singh, and the co-founder of Plus, Mukul Rustagi. The world's largest edtech player, is an Indian player. And for other investors or aspiring entrepreneurs in this space who are not looking to become, a Me Too player or a copycat of sorts and want to find niches of their own, what are subsegments of the market that you suggest they look at?
Right. So currently, say the biggest player, who is Baidu, they're into K-12 space, right?
Right.
So even in the K-12 space, like there's like different state boards where you can go and innovate, right? Offer them this high quality content.
Right.
One thing that I have seen missing, or like where we can innovate as a nation, especially I'm talking about K-12 as of now, is that how we can create much more, I would say, advanced learning systems, which respects the attention and retention span of a kid, right? One size fits all never happens, right? And that is I would say, that is one of the reasons why us as a nation lag, because we try to force fit the same curriculum to everyone, right? You need to finish, say, summation, addition in 2 weeks, and then subtraction in 2 weeks, and then I will take a test, and so on and so forth. It's not going to happen, right? And when we are producing such great engineers and product managers and also educators, I don't see a reason why we cannot create a learning system which respects this adaptiveness of attention and retention span, and then let the kid learn at its own pace, where the learning is not only imparted, but the reinforcements are also imparted, right? As Modi's push is on manufacturing, making India much more reliant, I guess we need skilled force as well as labor in the manufacturing segment as well, right? So that is again another segment where someone can innovate and impart high-skilled system, and so on. I guess these are the two things that I clearly see where someone can come and disrupt, that how we can make solution tailored enough for each and every individual, and how we can cater the needs of, say, us for different verticals of supply and demand.
Well, Mukul, Ajit is absolutely right, because while education needs to be standardized, it also needs to be customized to be most effective. So what's the key to striking that balance? And is it truly achievable via edtech?
I think my point of view is that I don't think there is any one single person or platform or technology that can actually, create customized experience for students. Like that is the fundamental reasons why different students study from different teachers. And
fair enough.
And in a country of 1 billion, there is no best physics teacher, because everyone on this call will have their own most favorite or best teacher, right? And I think any platform which tries to does this, I don't think they'll reach a very, very mass audience. I think, and that is one of the reasons why we build ClassPlus the way we build. We essentially give out all the coaching center and educators their own app, using which they can reach out to kids beyond their localities, right? And the reason is that if you want to serve a country of 100 million students with customized experience, the only way you can do this is by helping those 1 million educators go out and reach and teach their circles. So, and I think education is not a custom fit. It's not a standardized fit thing at all. Anything which is standardized fit might be a small portion of the entire curriculum, but I think it's a very, very customized, and there are multiple variables, right from the length of the course to the language to vernacularity to price points to online versus offline to academic, non-academic. I think the variables are extremely large to actually come out and just give a standardized experience to anybody. So
But
very, very
Nishant,
customized.
fair enough. And I would like Nishant to weigh in on what Mukul has just shared. And then over and above that, Nishant, I think what a child learns in school becomes the lens for how they view the world around them, obviously. So how can EdTech ultimately be made more interactive, more engaging, more exciting for the end user, the student?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the need of the hour, because till now what edtech had done in some sense was just to put the curriculum from offline to online and put the classes from offline to online. But what we see now is the products that are being made which truly take the power of internet in their hands. So we need to make sure that the classes are interactive. So for example, when we do projects for our students, we make sure that there are a lot of group projects, there's a lot of interaction happen, they learn from each other, debate with each other, and that happens very, very aggressively. This has to be very interactive, and this has to be very, very community driven. If we remember all our colleges or schools, I personally learned more from my peer group and friends than any of my professors. So that is the thing that is going to reflect on online as well. But currently not the case. So we will be building as a ecosystem products which take us in that direction. And it also opens for a particular student, it opens the whole world to them. As Mukul said, that the variety is enormous. They can actually look at 100 teachers and see who suits them. What do they like? What do they not like? We didn't have choices during our times as students. We can pick from one teacher or the other, or one source or the other. But the students of tomorrow would have that. So that's going to be phenomenal for them.
A lot of question and answer has started to pour in. So I'll take some audience questions now. My first question is for you, Nishant. And it's that over the course of this pandemic, have you witnessed a shift in learning technique from, say, rote-based learning to now a greater eye and emphasis on learning outcomes? Nishant, your take.
Yeah, so I mean, there has been a shift from rote learning to outcome-based as well as, personally driven learning. But that is mostly driven by the students who are interested in what they're learning, right? So as more personalization happens and feedback is taken into account, as Ajit said, so students themselves are personalizing for themselves. With the pandemic, what we have seen is a lot of exposure to a lot of areas. Students were forced to go onto YouTube and evaluate the best places to learn. So now I think students are more savvy, as well as have a much more higher expectation from their teachers in terms of their learning.
Phenomenal. A question, if Ajit and Nishant, you could both take this question. All right. What role can and must policymakers play in strengthening the country's edtech infrastructure? It's to both of you.
Yeah.
So Nishant, let's start with you. Or Ajit, we can kick it off. Sure.
So basically, one of the most important role they can play is how the education system is very, very relevant to what industry needs, right? Because if you look at the current, and both Nishant and I are here only because we are trying to solve a problem which has been there for a very, very long time, that we produce millions of graduates every year, yet companies struggle to hire a few, right? Similarly, and that's the reason, right? We have invested 15, 16 years in formal learning, then why I'm not getting a kind of a job that I'm looking for. So I guess this is the at the fundamentalist level, it needs to be solved as to how we can make learning much more, I would say, outcome oriented, plus what exactly industry needs, right? So I guess that's one that is going to solve. And then us as a nation also, are we making future ready citizens, right? When it comes to, right, whether we are just trying to solve today's problem, or are we also investing a lot in, say, MLAI and other stuff, right? We are trying to produce skill in that aspect as well, right? Because if we really want to be a self-sufficient nation, we need to produce a lot of people with smart manufacturing background, with smart AI ML skills and so on.
I'll take a quick break. We're back with more of the highlights from that masterclass. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass tonight, bringing you takeaways of a masterclass we did talking about the edtech space. Listen in.
Well, I'm told that it's time for another poll question, so I'll go to that. A follow-up poll question here for our audience. Please do chime in with your response. Do you believe that edtech learning has truly upgraded the education process, or is it all positive, or perhaps there's some drawbacks that we as an industry, need to personally and professionally reconsider? So that's the poll question for you. Do chime in. And we've gotten some more audience questions as well. So I'll go straight to those while I let the audience respond to the poll question. And okay, this question is for you, Mukul. Our next user's take is that when it comes to edtech infrastructure, both the public sector and the private sector need to equally shoulder the responsibility. Do you sort of echo that sentiment? And if so, how can the public and private sector better work in tandem to make technology-based learning more accessible and more affordable?
This is a hard one.
Well, that's why we're coming to you.
I think they can and they cannot, to be very honest. It's an independent choice. It'll be good if they do come, right? And I think, and from what I have seen, like private, we all know what the private companies and the private markets been doing. Like that's no surprises. But on the public side also, we have seen a lot of advancements happening, like right from the state of computer labs to probably, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but one of the most fantastic initiatives of the Indian government is actually something called a Disha app, right? Which is essentially one of the largest platforms in the world. It has more than, like, if I remember last, has more than 10 million users. It has a cross-functional use case, right? From an upskilling use case, which teachers train themselves and get better on, to essentially teachers forming their communities with students, to students actually accessing free study material across the country. Then there are initiatives like Swayam Portal in different colleges, public colleges and universities. So I think each of them will affect their sphere. But I honestly think that a lot is already happening. And most of this was actually pre-pandemic, and that's the sweet part. So I think they're already working well together and independently.
All right, our next question has come in for all three panelists. So Nishant, perhaps we could start with you, followed by Ajit, and then back to Mukul. And the question is that, do you believe students that are nurtured in an edtech-rich environment are better equipped to meet challenges of the future on a personal and a professional level? Tough one there, Nishant. Let's start with you.
Yeah. So edtech still is in a very nascent stage. We have seen full-fledged solutions for very, very specific things right now. So edtech is still in a tooling phase. We're building the plumbing for the future of education, but it's not in a phase where just by edtech you can, grow all those skills. You need to interact with a lot of people and learn from their experiences as well. So edtech in future is going to play a very important, much more important role, but right now you also need exposure to others.
Ajit, your take?
Yeah, I totally agree on this, Nishant, right? I guess edtech is still in cradle, right? We still need to see as to how it shapes up and builds up, right? And we need, as I quoted earlier also, we need a harmony in both offline and online space, right? When I say online, primarily edtech. But edtech alone cannot, I would say, produce the talent or the citizens for the future. I guess it needs to be a lot of human elements, social elements, peer elements, community elements that needs to be baked into it, right? And I'm pretty confident that edtech would be one of the strong enabler to it, but solely it can do it, I would say no.
Questions are continuing to pour in here. Let's see, I'll take this next one to you, Nishant. So we've seen some skyrocketing valuations in the edtech space. Are they justified? And do you believe that the edtech market will experience, a similar cycle of boom and bust like we've seen so many other sectors do? Nishant, over to you.
Yeah, so as I earlier mentioned, in short term, it's very, it's very unpredictable. In longer term, edtech is going to play a pivotal role in the development of the country. But in short term, due to things like pandemics, some specific companies doing well or not, the bull or bear market on Sensex, a lot of things influence the valuations. So we expect the valuations to still fluctuate, but in the long term, edtech is going to be a value creator in itself. That's my strong belief.
Mukul, a follow-up question for you there. From an investor's perspective, then do you believe we'll see more M&A activity than IPO activity? Are we going to see exits in the form of mergers and acquisitions, or are companies going to hit the public markets in the edtech space?
I think there's no emotion in there. Every company only has two routes to go. Either it's going public or going the M&A route. So if we see that there are enough companies in the market, we will see a lot of activity. And I'll just add to Nishant's question and point over there. I don't think valuation is something that we should be even bothered about, whether it's high or low or it's justified, not justified, doesn't matter. If you think that there is enough value to be created over a 10-year horizon, every valuation is justified, because this is a problem which has not been solved over the last 50 years. If you're expecting though that 50 years of value creation to happen over the next 10 years, yes, it will be faster than most people expect, and which is totally fine. So I think, yeah, my answer to your question is that.
A follow-up question here, and we'll pose this to all three panelists. You know, if you were to make education related decisions for a loved one, a family member, or a friend that's, you know, school going age, college or university going age, you know, or perhaps guide a parent who finds him or herself in that position, what would your words of advice be? Ajit, what's your take?
Yeah, I'll totally agree to what Nishant just said here, right? It is also a function of what stage of life you are at, right? I'm a father of a 10-year-old, and I understand this, right? Kids need physical spaces, they need peers, they need to learn from each other, right? And hence the right balance is that they need to learn more in physical spaces than say online spaces. Whereas online space or edtech space allows us to access something supplemental in addition to what schools and schools are teaching. As you move ahead in your say education journey, I guess you can be much more edtech oriented or online oriented than physical oriented, because most of your cognitive social skills would have been developed, right? And hence you can experiment more to the edtech or online space, right? So it's entirely stage depend upon which stage you are at, more physical to more online you can go. Yeah, this is the spectrum, I would say.
You know, I'll come to you now, Mukul, and a follow-up question has also come in for you, which is the extent to which the infiltration of edtech is influencing employability. So if you could give us your take on both, sir.
I think employability is actually, I think that one of the biggest deltas of this entire ed and tech adoption might actually come towards employability, because it is the end destination for every cent and penny which is ever spent into education for a child, all his career and lifelong, right? So I think employability is something which I believe will massively get helped, and also help a lot of masses of India. So I think a big believer of employability and tech via ed coming together.
Completely out of time on today's masterclass. If you have any feedback for us in terms of today's masterclass or anything that you want to tell us, here's how you reach us. Our contact details on your screens as we speak. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.